Even though his family had forgotten about it and was sitting enjoying their meal, he couldn't help but keep an eye on the people at the table across the table. He could easily hear the drama they were creating. They were cheering loudly with smudged lipstick and eyeliner covering their faces. These girls were unaware of what he was planning. He just wanted to take his family out for a special meal. They hadn't gone out to eat in months and he thought he'd treat them. He was a patient man. He had been waiting behind the car that had been trying to pull out for ages. When it finally managed to get out, he gave the driver a wave and a smile and he went on his merry way. Finally, he could park. As Tom was about to pull in, a car came speeding from around the corner. The car was packed with young adults. They sped into his spot just as he was about to pull in. Tom didn't even get a chance to pull his handbrake up. He could feel his stomach twist into a knot while his hands clenched so tight on the steering wheel his knuckles turned white. Did they think they were entitled to it? How dare they? Tom tried to breathe. He rolled down his window and politely said, "Excuse me, but I was waiting for that space." The young girl driving sneered at him and said, "Too bad. Your name wasn't on it." The girls got out of their car and giggled as they made their way towards the Applebee's nearby. He knew he'd get back at them. He slowly cobbled together an idea in his head while he ate dinner with his family. He still tried to enjoy the steak dinner he had ordered in the company. But when he turned to look at the girls that had come in before him, he could see them taking shot after shot. They were getting hammered. Even the driver looked like they were getting intoxicated. So much for a designated driver. Then his idea came to him. He called over the waiter and slipped him $20. The waiter listened to Tom's scheme and grinned. Seems he didn't like the girls any more than he did. They had been giving him trouble all night. Tom's family had just finished off their meal and were ready to go. He paid for the dinner, and as he left he whispered to the waiter, "Wait until 10 minutes after we leave. Then, go up to those girls and tell them someone called with a message. Someone keyed their car and they should have parked somewhere else." Tom looked back at Applebee's one more time before getting in the car with his family and driving away, without touching the girls' car. He hoped this would teach the girls about karma. But it escalated so much more than he could have imagined. When the group had heard that someone keyed their car, they were outraged. They flipped out and called the police and made a huge scene in the restaurant. The group had demanded that the police find the culprit. Even though the cops couldn't find a scratch, the girls wouldn't take no for an answer. The two officers didn't appreciate their tone. Since the group had been boozing, the cops could have easily charged them with public intoxication. But they waited for them to get in the car. The girls stumbled over to their car and got in. Their drunk driver turned the keys in the ignition and they were greeted with the sound of the police siren behind them. This is where Tom couldn't help but snort his coffee while the waiter conveyed the story. And the charge? The group had begun their evening by cutting off a man and being rude to him. They ended their night with a DUI each and public intoxication citations. Tom and the waiter both theorized that it was a smaller charge to begin with, but the group probably gave the police the same treatment they had given them. Let's just hope the girls learned their lesson. But what was the public's opinion? Well, aside from the server saying it was the easiest $40 he had ever made, Tom tipped him another $20 a few days later. Some people think it was going too far for the minor deed of taking a parking space. Others disagreed. Many voices chimed in, saying it was exactly what they deserved. There was also one larger point that a few people pointed out. Tom's revenge might have been simple, but the result was enormous. Without his plan, the group probably would have done something incredibly dangerous. People could have got hurt, or worse. What about Tom? Some question if the story was even true, since they cannot confirm any names, find any police reports, or produce any pictures. We all know that at least someone who would have taken at least one blurry photo. But does that even matter? There are two lessons here for everyone here. First, never underestimate your elders. It might be cliché, but it's still true. This can be children to parents or even grown kids with the elderly. They are often wiser and far cleverer in ways of dealing with problems, not to mention vast past experiences to draw upon. The second lesson? Being a brat will only last so long, then life, our karma, if you believe in such things, will eventually come back and bite you in the bum. And if you're really unlucky, that bite could end up as jail time and a spot on the permanent record. If you enjoyed this story, wait for our next story starting in 10 seconds. Everyone is guilty of taking everyday, common things for granted as we are just simply used to them. This includes abilities such as breathing normally, being able to see a loved one's face, walking, and the list goes on. For example, in the United States, around 100,000 people are deaf. While there are varying levels of being hearing impaired, it always comes with its challenges. On the bright side, many technological advancements have been made to help people who are hard of hearing. Hearing aids have been around for years, but today, we have devices that can give the gift of sound to even the most extreme cases of deafness. Videos have been filling the internet from all over the world sharing the moment someone hears their first words. These videos are overwhelmingly heartwarming to say the least. One of these incredible videos belongs to the story of Sarah Churman, a married mother of 2 little girls. Sarah's husband had heard about a new device, the Esteem, that could possibly cure her deafness. It is mind-blowing to actually understand how these devices work. While there are many different devices out there, this one in particular is what Churman used. EsteemHearing.com explains that nerve-related, sensorineural, hearing loss is the most common type of hearing loss. It is caused when the tiny hair cells inside the cochlea are damaged or degraded, and don't transmit sound impulses to the brain as effectively. They also explain how the device actually works, saying that it works with your ear's anatomy to let sound in the way nature intended. There are no microphones to distort conversations or amplify wind, and there is nothing in your ear canal to block sound's natural path. Instead, the device's 3 components work together with your ear to deliver Esteem's natural hearing. Sarah's story touched the hearts of people around the world for numerous reasons. With constant battles during her journey, she pushed through and finally found peace. The most interesting parts of her story lies beneath the surface as she was constantly presented with life-changing curveballs. When this family heard what her mother-in-law had done, it left the world shocked. No one could have imagined how her story turned out. Sarah Churman has been deaf her entire life. When she was born, the doctors informed her parents that she had DNA that prevented the hairs in the middle of her ears from forming. This has understandably made Sarah's life more challenging than the average person's. Because of this, she never would have expected the miracle that came her way. Although Sarah had her struggles being deaf, she always lived a fairly normal life. Sarah is married to a wonderful man and they have 2 beautiful children. Sarah is extremely close to her in-laws and they rave about what an amazing daughter-in-law she is. No one could have expected what Sarah's mother-in-law did when she got her hearing back. One day, Sarah's husband had heard about a device that a lot of deaf people have been finding success with. As there are different reasons for being born deaf or becoming deaf later in life, this device does not cure every case. Sarah made the decision to give it a go. Little did she know this visit would change her life. After Sarah had lived 29 years in silence, she was extremely eager and nervous to try this new device. Like anyone else, she didn't want to get her hopes up. However, in cases like this, it's hard not to. As she sat across the table from her hearing doctor, she was filled with overwhelming emotions. When her doctor placed the hearing device in Sarah's ear, they waited to see results. With Sarah's husband recording the experience, the world eventually got to share this incredible moment. "There you go," the doctor said, completing the adjustment process. What came next left everyone in tears. Sarah's doctor waited a second and then proceeded to ask, "Now, technically, your device is on. Can you tell?" The doctor immediately knew Sarah's answer without her saying a word. After the doctor spoke, Sarah's face immediately lit up. This moment was nothing short of amazing and touched the hearts of everyone watching the video. Sarah still had no idea what was in store for her. Sarah could not believe that she was actually hearing her doctor speak. When she heard her first words, she immediately started laughing, followed by a deep silence. This is when Sarah broke down in tears because of the overwhelming emotions that came with this experience. "I don't want to hear myself cry," she said. Sarah had tried many other hearing devices in the past, but the previous ones left her with uncomfortable feedback and screeching noises. It got to the point where she had lost hope and had come to terms with her permanent deafness. Sarah decided that she would rather be totally deaf than use a hearing aid and have to deal with the awful noises that came along with it. She states that it was just too uncomfortable and painful to handle. However, Sarah's perspective changed when she and her husband had kids. Once Sarah's kids started growing, she felt more passionate about finding a solution. She could see and touch her children, but she really wanted to be able to hear them. Unfortunately, shortly after Sarah thought that she found her miracle cure, she realized that just might not be the case. When Sarah received a follow-up call from her doctor regarding the hearing device, she was extremely disappointed. They told her that her insurance did not cover the device and it would be $30,000 to receive it. Sarah and her family were absolutely devastated as there was no way that they could afford such a pricey item. Through the heartbreak, Sarah's mother-in-law created hope. When she heard the devastating news, she came to the rescue. Without any hesitation, Sarah's mother-in-law generously used her retirement fund to pay for Sarah's hearing device. While this was incredible news, Sarah had plenty more coming her way. Sarah's mother-in-law stated that she is by no means wealthy. She simply had the extra money after she retired, and she wouldn't have wanted to spend it any other way. This was a pure act of love and generosity, and when the word got out, this story blew up. Sarah and her husband were so ecstatic about this news, they decided to share the video of their doctor's visit with the world. They wanted to publicly thank Sarah's mother-in-law as well as spread awareness about this new technology. No one could have ever expected what happened next. Their video went viral, hitting over 26 million views. People around the world were so overwhelmingly touched by this 90-second video, it was shared continuously. One special viewer in particular was exceptionally touched by the video. This viewer was TV star and comedian, Ellen DeGeneres. This changed their lives forever. Ellen invited Sarah and her family onto her show and interviewed them about their experience. When she questioned Sarah's mother-in-law, it was stated that the money she gave them was not a loan, it was a gift, and she refused to let them pay her back. This is when things got interesting. Ellen DeGeneres is known for her extremely generous charity for people in need. On this segment, Ellen surprised the family with a $30,000 check to pay Sarah's mother-in-law back for the hearing device. Incredibly, her generosity did not end there. Ellen had another surprise up her sleeve for the family. Although Sarah had been lucky enough to get this hearing device, the $30,000 only covered one device for one of her ears. While this is still incredibly helpful, she wouldn't be able to have full hearing without two of them. Ellen surprised the family with an additional check for $30,000 to be able to purchase a second device. This story touched the hearts of so many people around the world, and we can only hope to hear more like it. Sarah and her family are said to be exceptional people, making this story that much more heartwarming.